Okay. Sorry, I'm moving a little slow today, but I don't necessarily have a hard stop time today. So that's a plus. So it is Sunday, it's an art day. So hello everybody. We have been following along with Bob Ross's Joy of Painting tutorials while needle felting instead of painting this time. We've done this twice before where we were actually using the Bob Ross oil paints. Using the paints has its own charm. However, for me, the smell of the oil paint's not ideal. And the drying time on the oil paint is also not ideal. So I could only go kind of small. Number one, my work surface is about as big as this, like as big as a 9x12 piece of felt, basically. Maybe just a little bit bigger, but not by much. So we had to stay small, and I also had to stay small because I have animals, and I don't have a room that I can close off to let them dry in without them getting disturbed by curious critters. So, excuse me. So, it's like, yeah, okay, so I had to get, like, containers from the dollar store and drill, what the hell, and drill holes in the sides of them for airflow, and to also take some kitchen skewers and set up, like, a drying rack inside of it so I could do multiple layers. But then it took forever because I had to have the lid on. So, although I did find that the wood slices, when we made the magnets, dried really fast in comparison to the canvases. I guess because the wood helped soak in the oil, maybe. But, I know those little mini, like, 4-inch canvases that we did, those took months to dry where you could touch them. Or cure, I guess is the better word. Or the more appropriate term. But, that was a right pain in the ass, I gotta tell you. So this, I don't have to worry about the paint smudging or smearing. We can just roll our hands all over this and we're fine. I was gonna put the hanging string on the previous project, and I forgot. I think I know where the string is, but then that would require me getting up to leave to go get it. You know what? Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can grab that real super quick. This is more twine than jute. It's a bit thinner, but it'll kind of serve the same purpose. I mean, jute wouldn't be quite as scraggly, although some jute is. So, whoop, forgot that was sitting there. Okay, so we'll just do this real super quick. I was only planning on putting it on the top. So I left the dowels white, and I did have a little bit of an overhang on them because we're gonna, what is happening here? Oh, no, that was an extra straggly piece. So we're gonna, now, you could do this with, like, nylon, roping, you know, real pieces of roping, you know, whatever you so choose. I'm just trying to get a little bit on the ends here in an attempt to tie alright, so I'll leave a little bit more of a tail so that way we can get this done on the back. So yeah, like real thin rope or nylon rope or something. You can find something at the hardware store, I'm sure, or the craft store, or like maybe a better macrame rope. Or you could even possibly do ribbon. That is also a very definite, or some kind of cording from the ribbon department. The only reason why I said rope is if you're on a tight budget, you may want to go with that, because, you know, if you start hanging out in the ribbon department, unless they're having a fabulous sale, that's gonna get real expensive real quick. Alright. Okay, could you let go? Thanks. So, we'll get a bit more of this. This is like probably way too much. Way too much. But figure out how long you want it to be for hanging purposes. I mean, I was originally thinking jute, and I thought this was a little more jute-like, but it's a little more scraggly like twine, but I can trim up some of those scraggles a little bit. That's probably good about there. Alright, and then I'll just wrap around here. A few times. And stay there. Yeah, so I cut way too much off of there, but that's alright. It's okay. Why am I better at tying knots on the one side than I am on the other? That's just fail. Alright, and like you can always come back with a bit of glue, or maybe some Mod Podge glue, and glue your knots in place. I'm just kind of trimming some of our extra scraggles here, just to kind of make it a little more clean, while at the same time making a huge gigantic mess. Just giving our string here a little bit of a haircut. So it took me a while to get the stuff to finish this guy up, but he's all done now. Good job, you put that twine right in today's green stuff. Yeah, so I'm actually gonna, I mean, there he is pretty much, you know. Not bad, not bad. Gives it a little bit more of a finish, and I think he'll be easier to display, and we won't have to worry about it being quite so size specific to a frame, because it's really hard to get it to stay size specific with how I'm doing it. So, alright, let me let go. Oh, bother. Okay. all of this mess shuffled off to there, and then will you stop grabbing everything? I'll grab a little bit of my tacky and just make sure that our knots are in place. And I was trying to use my Elmer's oh, what the hell was it? My Elmer's, I put it away. I think it was Elmer's Super Bond. It was the stuff that we used to glue the magnets to the wood slices when we made those. That stuff seems to work heaps better on non-porous though. Like, it just kind of soaked into the felt. It made this section of felt super hard, but didn't really make it stick. It just soaked all into the felt right away. So ended up coming back with just the tacky glue. Could have used hot glue, but I just didn't feel like dragging the hot glue gun out for this. And I mean, you could use the hot glue here as well, as long as it's not gonna melt whatever you're using to hang. Like, we had some white nylon cord I could have used if I knew where it was. I had a vague idea of where it was, but I don't see it there now, so it might have gotten moved. I don't think we used all of it, but you know, whatever. This will get the job done. I just have to put it somewhere while it dries on those glue knots, and that's just to make sure it doesn't come unknotted on me, really. Oh, where am I going to put you? Alright, you know what? You can go hang out on the turtle for right now. Okay, so let's grab all of this stuff here, so that way it's not causing chaos. But yeah, so that's basically how it looks with the dowel rods on it, and I just decided to leave them white. I could have gone in a gray family somewhere, or I could have gone with wood tone, but then I felt like it was going to be too dark, so I just decided to go with the white. It didn't look half bad when I put the primer. I just gessoed those dowel rods after I cut them. They look a little uneven because I had to cut them to fit, so I got them cut as evenly as I could with a little handsaw. Oh, my hands are peeling so bad. I hate this time of year so much. I mean, I'm glad it's getting warmer and stuff. Don't get me wrong. I like that aspect. I just don't like the allergy aspect, because I seem to have a skin thing where as the allergies get bad, my hands freak out and my skin starts like blistering under the skin. It's weird. And then it starts peeling real bad. It was even doing that in Jersey too, so it doesn't do it all year. It only does it around this time of year and maybe in the fall for a little bit. Alright, so when we last left off last week, we were here, thank you, working on did we go too far over the line? Oh, maybe we didn't go far enough down there. We were working on putting in our grass on either side of our pathway, road, whatever we're calling it. It might be a footpath on a trail or something. Just, it doesn't seem wide enough for a vehicle. Maybe a bike. Now, he didn't do the dark base of green under, well, he did a base of green, but it was like a mixture of sap green and something else. Or maybe it was straight sap green, but with the liquid white on there, it made it quite a bit lighter. And then he kind of just went ham with like yellow ochre and cad yellow and all of that in there. And that's great when you're doing paint and you can get subtle shade shifts and things, but it's a little bit more difficult when working with this to get those subtle shade shifts in there without having to have a ton of yarn shades in there. So we are going to just work on getting in the worst of the gaps filled in. And I wanted our dark green as our base in here because we're going to come back with our mustard yellow ochre color, or as close of a color as I have to yellow ochre. And I'm sure there's probably closer colors, but this is just what I happen to have in my arsenal of fluffy stuff. To make this work. So our colors are probably going to be a bit brighter, a bit bolder, and maybe a little less 70s, 80s, if that makes sense. Because if you take a look at like a lot of old landscape paintings, well, I guess it's technically older, we'll say older, from around that time, they all kind of had the same color palette. Not all of them, but a good deal of them would be like the heavy on the yellowy ochre kind of shades and stuff. You know what, we'll just want it to be its own little guy here. So who am I to argue? So our color choices might look a little bright in comparison, but I try to stay as close as I can with what I have. And there's no way I have the skill set to match that closely to what he's able to pull off with paint. We can get it close. And we can get the idea across. And when you hold the base finished piece of his up against what we did, well, you can kind of see what we were shooting for. But, you know, everybody does see things differently. There will be times where I've looked at his tutorial, done the thumbnail, base concept sketch, whatever you want to call it, trying to figure out what colors I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach it. And then by the time I sit down, maybe a week or so later, and start to put the piece together, I'll be looking at the tutorial because I've got it, you know, where we currently are for you guys. And then I'll look at my concept sketch, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, what was I doing here? Like, why did I do that? So sometimes I'll make changes from the concept sketch that was very messily, hastily done. And it doesn't seem like they were hastily done when we're working on them together in our planning streams, but it is actually pretty hastily done for me. Alright, so I know we're putting another color on top of this. I'm just trying to fill in the bulk of our gray here that's poking through, just so we're not quite so weird with the gray lines. Alright, now I was torn here because I wasn't sure if we should highlight, well, not really highlight, but put our yellows in on this side before moving into the green on this side. And I'm not sure how I want to do this, because it would probably be better to put the green in all the way across. So that way I can carry things across a little bit better. Probably should do that. And I also want to get our pathway put in before we start. That's probably good enough for the base there. I do know I'm a little bit off over here, but I'll try to clean that up with our yellows. I do want to get our pathway base in before I start putting in the yellow and stuff, so just to kind of sit that, to help sit the pathway thing down into the piece here. Alright, so again, I'm not going for super perfect on this shade, which is why I still have some thin spots and gaps of the base felt poking through on that section. This is just to kind of give us a base to put in our yellowy ochre colors in. I might see what other yellows I have in the roving, the mini roving bags that I still have, just to try to add some more different shades in there to stand up on the on this darker mustard color. And I'm probably not going to go super thick on the mustard color. I mean, I might go thicker than our shrubbery line here. But I don't know how thick I'm really going to go yet. It's going to be kind of a, we'll see how it plays out sort of thing. Again, I'll probably start with like a less is more approach. Not quite as less is more as the shrubbery line, but you know, we'll have to see. Because I'm not sure how I'm gonna pull this off, right? Because he's got just all kinds of yellow swirls. Like, he took the cad yellow, and I'm sure, like, you can get the idea that it's, like, shrubbery turning yellow, or coming into, like, the fall season with the paintbrush strokes. But this isn't paint, so we don't really have paintbrush strokes that we can rely on to kind of get that concept across. We have, you know, fiber, and we can try to lay the fiber in at like different angles, but if it gets to be solid enough, you're gonna lose those feelings of, oh, this is tree leaves. It's a little bit different than just kind of working with the paint. That's why I usually have my finger just holding the loose end of this down, because the little notches in the needle like to grab all of it and just shove more than we necessarily need to shove through in some areas, so that's kind of why my finger is usually in the way. But it's Sunday, so how allergies. How have you guys been doing this weekend? How was your weekend? What did you guys do? Anybody do anything fun and exciting? We might be going to the zoo soon. I don't know what day. My mom requested to go, which kind of surprised us because we didn't think she had that good of a time. But I was reading on their website, that damn elephant exhibit's not going to be done until 2024. I thought it was going to be done a lot sooner than that. Because, man, they had all the construction equipment going. And they had buildings, well, they had the skeletons of buildings up, but oh my goodness, my voice today. Like I said, allergy central. I actually didn't take any allergy medicine yesterday. I guess I'm paying for it today. There, I took some now, so hopefully that won't be too obnoxious for you. But I didn't really get in any bonus streams this weekend, and sorry about that. I really did want to get back into Dinkum. However, I am so behind on video editing. The speed felt of Distant Hills, the one that we did before this one, it's not even funny. So this editing software that we are using in place of Adobe, it's a bit, I don't want to say complicated, because I'm kind of figuring it out. It took a while because, you know, it was something new, and their instructions weren't the greatest, and trying to read their help manual just kind of made my brain melt. So I had to try to hunt down some videos on a couple other things. But they've got like different, they've got like a timeline screen, and then they've got a cutting room screen or some shit. So like I can't necessarily use the main timeline to trim out stuff like I could in Adobe. I need to be in this other screen and doing it in the other screen. Well, it's probably a little more precise it's a bit slower, I've found, or I'm just more distracted. But I've got 2 live streams fully edited from the last project down into the speed file, and I'm working on live stream number 3, and that's been taking me a while to get through. I don't know if I've just been more talky in it or what, but I've had so many cuts to do. Oh, which are you? Oh, you're still more of that twine. Okay. Well, good to know, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know what the hell, but, I think I was just more distracted, because you know what it was? I need something on in the background to kind of entertain me. I swear I must have some kind of ADHD, because if I have to focus on one thing, it doesn't work. I'm, like, all over the place. Like, I need something going on in the background to help me focus. It's odd. But if I have, like, some kind of commentary running in the background, I seem to focus a little bit better. So I will find, like, old videos from different vloggers that I've watched, and if they have a playlist going, I will pop on one of those, or I will try to find, like, history documentaries if they're interesting enough. Sometimes if the narrators for them are a little too dry and stuffy in how they're speaking, then I can't. I'm out. But, you know, like, lately I've been watching old police chases, like, from California and shit, that, like, go on for, like, an hour plus, and I'm like, okay, we can put that on in the background. But then I end up watching it instead of getting I'll, like, watch it for, like, 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be editing. So, you know, but I did get, I got an hour. Let's see, that third session was about 3 hours, a little over 3 hours. I got an hour cut out of it Friday night, or edited an hour of it, and then I got another hour done yesterday evening after I got done house chores and stuff. But, so I've got about an hour left on that particular session. And then I need to edit some, a couple Minecraft sessions together. Actually, I think I need to do one more session before I merge all of those sessions together, because I'm doing some long play, no commentary with that. That's probably going to be an on-again, off-again thing, so if anybody is watching that playlist on the YouTube channel, that's going to be an as I have time to do it sort of thing. Because I do have a couple art projects I'm also in the middle of recording that I really need to get back into. And I really want to get back into Dinkum, man. Maybe after I finish this third video, or third live stream session, I'll reward myself with a bonus late night Dinkum session. Dinkum's been streamed. I've got the live streams archived on the YouTube channel, and I'm kind of playing it somewhat blind. I don't know that much about it. A couple of things I did have to look up on where to find something that I needed to make something else, because I didn't quite understand, well, how do I get the thing? And usually the answer is farm more and then the answer will become clear. So, you know, one of those things where it's like your skill's not actually high enough yet to get the thing to do the thing. So, and I'm kind of at a standstill in the town in our stream playthrough because I guess I haven't done enough. I think like the trader guy, it seems like they expedite him and maybe the museum to get them to stay sooner, but it seems like the other towns, or the other potential townspeople that visit the island, it feels like we have to do quite a few more errands for them to get them to want to set up shop, because what's her name still doesn't have any more new building deeds, and I'm kind of like, can nobody else move in yet, or am I just not making them happy enough to want to move in yet? Sorry, that didn't look like it was attached very well. That's why I scraped it with the stabby thing. It's probably a good thing that I did scrape it with the stabby thing. So, but yeah, I've really got to finish this painting. I think my gouache paint may have re-solidified the jelly gouache, so I wasn't spraying it daily. So I really need to get that piece done. Just so tired by the end of the day, man, by the time I'm done everything else. I've been staying up a little bit later the past couple of nights video editing. For a few nights I was kind of laying down around like 1 or 2 a.m. I wasn't necessarily ready to sleep, but my allergies were kicking my ass. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna lay down. Between that and the overload of allergy medication in my system, I was like, maybe I'll fall asleep. And then I'd still be up till like 7 a.m. reading, so I'm like, yeah, let's just try to stay up a little bit longer, get some more video editing done. So the past few nights I haven't gone to bed till like 4:30. But we'll see what happens. Sorry if you hear the husband in the background. He made corn chowder, I think, and now his sinuses are like flipping their shit. So apologies if that is bleeding through. He's in another room. I can hear him clearly, but I don't know how much the mic's picking him up. This mic doesn't pick up what I want it to, and it picks up everything I don't want it to. Kind of infuriating. Alright, so like I said earlier when we got started, I don't necessarily have a hard stop time today. So we'll just kind of see where the afternoon takes us here on this guy. I also need to get a recorded session in on Planet Zoo so that we can get caught back up. Because I think the husband's at 4 habitats in that are functioning. We just started to put our 4th in, but he's a lot faster at putting them in than I am. Because I fuss with them and try to decorate around the outside of them all in one go, and he usually comes back in later and tries to do that. So he needs to do some work on his, he said, off stream too, with his Main Street area and whatnot. But I haven't even touched my entrance area yet. I'm just like, meh. It's fine. We'll figure it out later. I mean, we could potentially stick some grassland animals up in there too. We'll see. But yeah, I can't believe that elephant exhibit's going to be another year before they're done with it. Excuse me. And when we were there last time, they also had the kangaroos off exhibit because they were refurbishing their habitat. And I'm glad we got to see the jaguars while we were there. I think it was the jaguars that my mom liked seeing that were half laying in the tree in their enclosure, because they are now currently off exhibit because there was damage to the roof of their exhibit, I guess when one of the thunderstorms went through. And they're off exhibit until that's repaired. So, but I don't think we need reservations anymore. But it was nice to be able to buy the tickets ahead of time and not have to worry about paying for them at the door. Just show them the little QR code on the phone. It did make it a lot faster getting through the gates and stuff. And we'll probably be able to leave a little bit earlier next time we go, because we won't have to be dicking around with stuff at the bank first, or waiting for the bank to open, because it is a 2-hour drive, so unfortunately. Now I think there is another one that's in Missouri that's also a 2-hour drive that we've never been to, but that one might be a little bit harder on the husband, because I think that one's going through more mountains, going north-ish than going over into, I mean, there's a few mountainy, hilly areas going into Oklahoma from where we are. But that lasts maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes at the most. And then it flattens out. And then he's okay. But I don't know how bad the topography is going north, although I think it's a little more mountainy. It's been a while since we've been north. We kind of went northeast when we went to Eureka Springs one time, and that was pretty rough on him. That was a lot of twisty, turny, mountain, hilly roads that had like hairpin turns and shit. That was wild. I didn't really like that either. But we weren't that enamored with Eureka Springs for the distance we had to go. If it was closer, we might go more often, or we might have gone back, but I think that might have been close to an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. Or like in 2-hourville, like it takes about 2 hours to get anywhere meaningful. There is the Little Rock Zoo that would be in state, but it's in Little Rock. And we've not had fun times driving around Little Rock, like on the outside edges of it, on I-40. And that's still further or longer of a drive than going just to Tulsa and crossing the state line for us. It's wild that that's the case, but It's like, okay. And I've had a couple of you guys suggest, what was it, St. Louis Zoo? I think it was. And I think it's on our list to check out eventually. Whatever zoo it was that was free. But like, I think we had to pay to, I don't even know if we had to pay to park. But that would have to be like a weekend trip. We couldn't do that in a day. That would be a little much. And somebody would have to be here to keep an eye on the dogs. And I don't know if my mom would want to go see that or not. But we've got some other stuff that we want to take care of before we even get to our zoo trip list. If we're ever able to. Like, we kind of want to go see, the Omaha Zoo. That looks pretty cool. And I think there might be a zoo in Kansas City? Maybe, unless I'm confusing it with Omaha, which is entirely possible. I have to go back through the list again. Alright. So again, I'm just trying to get some base color down here. It's not going to be perfect on this layer. I'm just really trying to fill in around our pathway here, because we've got another color I'm gonna drop in on top of this. That's why this doesn't need to be all that perfect. And then in here is gonna be more of this, but it's gonna have to be more solid, more diligently put in. And this section might be a combination of this green and the varsity green. Are two dark guys. Well, the varsity is not that dark, but it'll probably look positively neon on top of the hunter, but it might help emphasize the shadows from the hunter green. We'll see. So I hope everybody's having a good day. Hope everybody has a good week. And I do thank everybody for hanging out with me this afternoon. We're still going, I'm not wrapping up, I'm just talking. So I know there's probably a lot of other people streaming today. But thank you for choosing to hang out with me and check out what we're doing, at least for a little bit. Lurkers are more than welcome. I get paranoid because when I do the no commentary recording, I mute my mic. Okay. And sometimes I don't always remember to unmute it. But it looks like I've unmuted it, and it looks like all of the sound stuff is how it should be. Windows updates. Actually, I think I think I've had two since the last one that switched my mic input. Thanks, Windows. I don't know why you would do that. I didn't tell you to do that. Decided to do it for me. Oh, our poor beat up art pad. We're gonna have to replace this guy soon, I think. He's all... I mean, he's still functional. He's just starting to feel like a sculpture instead of a flat mat. And he's probably still got a little bit of life left in him. As long as some of them sits flat, right? So we've had that mat about a year. Well, no, a little over a year now. And we've done quite a few projects on this guy. So, I mean, not terrible. Including my first couple where I didn't realize that it was a better idea to disentangle it from the mat every so often, or else it becomes one with the mat. That became a thing, and I was like, oh no. One of the first pieces I did, I like really had to fight to get him off of there. I was like, oh, what did I do? Alright, so let's see here. We got this guy. Live and learn, right? Now we'll probably clean up the length or the width on this guy a little bit better as we get our pathway tapped in there. Sorry for the traffic, we do have the window open. For those that are new here, I live in a small town, smaller town, and there's like one main road that cuts through it in a roundabout way, and then there's like a bypass, and most people still insist on going through the town, and because we live right on this busy road, we get a lot of the obnoxiously loud adjustments to mufflers and things that make them louder, all of the things bleeding through constantly. Like, we're directly on this road. I think the road is like maybe 20 steps from our front door. It's really not that far. We don't have much of a front yard at all. And we'll get a few tractor trailers that still cut through here, and I don't know why. Most of them have decided to move over to the bypass. I don't know where they're coming from, that they're insisting on going through the town. Especially at all hours of the night. One particular company I can think of. It's not like it's a delivery tractor trailer. Ones that, the majority of the ones that I'm hearing. Sorry, there was a little fuzz that didn't belong in there. And I had kicked him up. And then I lost sight of it. I wasn't sure if it was on the tip of the needle or not. Well, I don't know where he went. He went somewhere now. Alright, I mean, I guess we don't have to make sure every little fiber is tacked down on this layer because we are coming back over it with another layer. Alright, I'm just doing this to help everything lay a little bit flatter. You can kind of see our concept on the back. I'm really starting to want to do some latch hook rigging. I'd love to make our own. I've never done that before. I would need to get or set up like a graph paper grid or something, I think. Or maybe just get a piece of graph paper. We might have some graph paper somewhere. And just like color block it out. But I was thinking it might be a little bit easier to color block it out digitally, because then if I decide no, that was one square too many, I can just delete it. Instead of starting over. I mean, I could just make my own graph. That would be possible. I think the only things I don't have would be the canvas. I'd love to do like a little plastic canvasy guy with it, but I'm not sure if I could pull that off. Like I don't, and I'd need the tool. But I don't think plastic canvas holes are big enough to necessarily get that tool into their crevices. They're more for like the yarn needles and stuff. So I'd probably have to get the actual latch hook canvas, which is a bit bigger. I don't know, just something to think about. Wouldn't be happening anytime soon. That would need a little bit of planning. So I would need the tool, piece of canvas, and I've never used the rubber stuff that you put on the back, but I do know some people do use it just to make sure that everything stays put. I mean, I probably wouldn't be using it as a rug because of the cats and their catness, shall we say. They would probably destroy a lot of it. With all of their catness, so most likely for display purposes only up on the walls and stuff. My grandfather used to do a few of them. They had one hanging up, and I can't remember if it was from a kit or one that he did himself. It's probably a kit, because he, before he got real sick, he would he loved doing needlepoint. Absolutely loved it. And I was always fascinated by that. He tried to teach me how to do it, and it just didn't really stick. I didn't really get the concept, I guess. I was, like 5th grade when he was trying to teach me, but it always fascinated me. Because, when you're younger, you learn by what you absorb a lot of what you see, right? So, I didn't have that many male figures in my life. I had a few, but I had never seen anybody like do their hobby before when I was around. And it just fascinated me to see a guy doing like A, an arts and crafty thing, and B, doing like a sewing thing, like this like needlepoint thing, because in my brain I had only ever seen females doing it before, and I was like, wow. I was more like enamored with that than anything. And it's funny what your younger selves get like hung up on or get impressed by, or today it's like, oh yeah, so what, like guys can do these things. It's just I had never seen another guy do them, so in my brain I was just always associated it with stuff that girls did. Of course that's vastly changed, and now I've seen more guys doing it. I just had never seen anybody else do it up to that point in my small circle. But he did quite a few. I don't know what he did with them. Like he would have, like he went whole ham on it. He had pieces of cardboard set up with the different colors all like in these little notches that he cut into the cardboard to keep them all separate and stuff. He was very organized with how he was doing it. I don't ever remember what he did with them though. I'm trying to think back on it, and I don't really remember seeing them framed in the house or anything. I remember the one obnoxiously large latch hook rug because it was like the length of a window, or like half the length of a window. But I don't know what they did with the needlepoint stuff. I don't ever remember seeing it hung up anywhere unless they gave it away as a gift to somebody, which I guess is possible. But, yeah, now that I think back about it, and I do think he finished them, because I think I would remember seeing him work on different ones. His main hobby, from what I can remember, was
just to let you know, I'll be in the other room for a bit.
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. His main hobby was handicapping horses, though. Following the racing forums and stuff. I don't know how successful he was at the betting windows, but it was like the highlight when he would go and pick up a daily racing form and come back home, and he'd sit at his desk for hours reading all the buyer speed figures and just analyzing every single race 6 ways to Sunday. And I believe, if my grandmother is to be believed, that her grandfather? Her great-grandfather. Maybe it was her grandfather. Helped to build the Atlantic City racecourse when it was still, you know, it's not functioning now. They had their last race when I was still up there. And they were talking about, you know, they couldn't keep it afloat anymore, and they were shutting it down. And then they moved to these weird half seasons where they would scrape the money together to open it for like a month. And they did that for a little bit. And then I think somebody else finally bought it, and they weren't able to do that anymore. And the last I heard, they were gonna tear the whole damn thing down and put up some kind of housing. I don't know if it was condos or was it some kind of affordable housing or something. I don't know. But I don't know if that ever happened, come to think of it. Because then they were doing like auctions out there on the properties, parking lots. Like equipment auctions and stuff. And then there was a few times where they used the parking lot space for the circus to come through and set up shop when the circus was still a thing. I don't know, is the circus still a thing? Or have circuses pretty much vanished into the night? I never went to the circus. I think I kind of wanted to once, vaguely. And I think my mom shut that down. I don't know if she just really didn't want to go. Or thought we'd be there 5 minutes and I'd start bitching and wanting to go. I don't know. But I think I vaguely, maybe might have been interested in going for like maybe 10 minutes, and then I was like, meh. I don't know if circuses are still a thing. Alright. So, we're just getting our base color tapped in here on both sides of our pathway. And after we get this put in, might try to start putting the pathway in itself. We'll see. Alrighty. But yeah, supposedly either her father, or maybe it wasn't her father, maybe it was her grandfather or her great-grandfather, ended up being some of the masons that worked to build the grandstand building, laying all the brick for it. Something to that effect, if what she told me wasn't a story. I don't think it was. I think her maiden name was Masters or Masterson or something like that, and I think I remember seeing those names potentially involved with it. But I'm also trying to remember what generation of hers was it that immigrated here. I'm pretty sure my grandfather's side of the family, I was told that they were let me see if I can get this right. Austrian German or German Austrians or something like that. I don't know, or maybe they were a combination of the two, or they were German from Austria. I don't know. Something along those lines. And they came through Ellis Island. I can't remember what generation it was, though. I can't remember with her. I mean, I think they might have come through Ellis Island too. But I really don't want to pay for an ancestry membership. What the fuck? Is it ancestry.com? Membership? I don't really have the money to throw at that. I think before they started charging, I had seen a free sample saying, hey, you know, this happened and that happened. And I can't remember where they came from, though. I know my mom's side of the family is Irish, somewhere in there. I almost want to say they came from England, but I'm not entirely sure about that. And they're both long gone, so I can't exactly go ask them. He passed away from prolonged illnesses when I was like in 5th grade or something. And I remember he was sick for a long time, because we would, when I got shoved off onto them, because my parents didn't have another babysitter available, I would spend a lot of time with them. Like, I spent most of the summer with them, or the weekends during the summer there, a couple of days a week at their house. And I remember that we would go and do stuff, like they would both take me to like the Ocean City, New Jersey boardwalk, and there was a picture somewhere, and I don't know where it ended up, and I don't know if my parents have it in their shit, or if when the family ransacked my grandmother's house when she passed away, if somebody took it. In which case, I'll be damn mad if somebody took it, because it wasn't theirs to take. Pictures of me when I was younger with them. Just us three. Like, nobody else in the photo. And people were taking them. I'm like, this isn't yours to take. This isn't your memory to have. Like, why do you want this? You all were just so hell-bent on just grabbing stuff. Not even knowing or understanding what the hell was it you were all grabbing. I don't know if my dad and my uncle approved it, or like, it needed to be done calmly. And honestly, my dad and my uncle should have been the only ones going through the house and then like looking at stuff and being like, okay, well, who's this a photo of? Who's that a photo of? And put them in piles for people to come and get them. It should have been a more organized affair, because later in the day or the next day or whatever, when, I don't know, I think my mom picked me up and she took me over to the house because she was helping my dad go through stuff. The place was like empty, and I'm like, what the fuck is everything? Like, it was bizarre, and I'm like, People sure move fucking fast. And I'm like, well, can I get my stuff? Because I had toys there. I had a train set there. I had a tabletop pinball thing. I had, I don't think I really cared about the dollhouse at that point. But I think my dollhouse was gone. My train set was gone. My golden books that I had had forever, that you know that you would get with like the McDonald's Happy Meals and stuff, those were gone. I was like, oh my god, where's all my stuff? Because, you know, I practically lived there most of the time, so when my stuff was gone, I was kind of mad. But I remember pictures of us at, you know, in Ocean City, New Jersey, and renting like the Surrey bikes, like the 2 to 4 person bike things. I remember that happening a couple of times. I remember they had this huge ass old 2-door Cadillac that had a back seat that was like as big as a closet, like you could like lay down across the back seat in this thing. It was huge. At least to my younger brain it seemed huge, right? And it had like electric seats that you could push a button and it would like move it up or move it back. Like, it was just like fascinating to me. And they had this huge trunk that you could lay down inside of comfortably, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, she had all kinds of tools and shit in there, but I remember that they would take this big ass Cadillac, and they had this huge metal red painted trailer that had like high, not real high, but like maybe 2 foot high walls around it to keep whatever you're putting in there. And I remember once or twice them hooking the trailer up to the Cadillac. This Cadillac pulled a trailer, y'all. And I wish I had a picture of the car, but I don't. It was an old car. Like, towards the end of her, like, before she ended up getting rid of it, I think she sold it to some collector or something to help pay for something. And it was getting to the point where it wasn't a good idea for her to be out driving it on her own anyway, because it was starting to break down and not be reliable anymore. That thing was held together with like spit and duct tape for a little while, like the engine and stuff. Because I remember a couple of times when I was with her that we would just get stuck in parking lots and have to wait for some family member to disentangle themselves from work to either come pick us up or come try to fix whatever was wrong with the car not staying running. But yeah, they would hook up this big ass heavy metal red trailer to the back of this cream peachy colored Cadillac. And I forget what the hell was in the trailer. Why did they use the trailer? Was there bikes on the trailer? They might have put bikes on the trailer that took down to the Ocean City boardwalk and ride them on the boardwalk, so we didn't have to rent bikes and stuff. I don't even remember where that trailer came from. They just always seemed to have it. Maybe it was from the days when they owned their gas station, because they did that for a while. I don't remember why they sold the gas station though. Maybe they just retired and didn't want to run it anymore, and I guess my dad and my uncle didn't want to run it or something, or Or maybe they sold it to Atlantic City. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember why they had to close that. I don't know if anyone ever said. I mean, I'm sure my dad probably knew, but I don't ever remember being in that gas station, so I think that was long a memory before I was at least old enough to know what the hell was going on around me to some degree. I feel so bad now because she took such pride, her and my grandfather took such pride in the way the property looked. Just meticulously. When he couldn't cut the grass anymore, she was out there cutting it. And, you know, keeping the rhododendron bushes in check. And she had her flowering dogwood trees. And then they had a whole thing of azalea shrubs down the one side of the house. And, like, it had oil heating. And it had a long driveway. Not that long, but, you know, they were living on a double lot, I think, for the size of the lots in that town. And, the lots were pretty deep, so the garage was, like, detached, and it was kind of, it was pretty much in the backyard. And so the driveway went the length of the property. And so on the driveway side of the house, and it was it gravel? Was it stone? It was like grass in the middle and then like gravelly, stony tire track thingies, and chain link fence around the entire property. And then parts of the property also had, like, the outer perimeter had a chain link fence, and then that went down the driveway, across the front, and down the other side of the property. I don't know how far it went back. I don't know if it actually surrounded the entire property or at least just the three sides of it. And then halfway down the driveway started a red stockade fence. That's what they called it. It was like 6-7 feet tall. It was wood. And that started halfway down the driveway, and that enclosed the entirety of the backyard around the entire property, halfway up the side, and then maybe 10 or 15 feet before they got to, well, no, maybe it was more than that. Let's be generous and just call it maybe 30 feet before you got to the chain link fence in the front. It cut across the front yard, so there was a little bit of a front side yard, but it entirely enclosed the backyard excuse me, of the house. And it was a lot of fence, every year, every 2 years, no, maybe it was every year, out there painting the fence red, redoing the paint. I remember for a while, I had to help paint it several times, or got roped into helping paint it several times. And they had these huge holly trees. And the fence, like, cut behind them, so you'd have to kind of, like... The holly trees were kind of airy at the bottom in this one section. And then, like, all along the fence on the inside of the property, there was flowering bushes and stuff in the one corner, and then she had another dogwood tree in the back, and she had bird feeders hanging off that one, and it was, like, would, like, be this, like, little alcove that the holly tree and this dogwood tree created. Had to climb in back there and paint that side of the fence red. Every inch of that fence had to be painted that you could get to. And they had a metal shed in the backyard that they would paint with the same red paint. I don't know if it was stain or if it was actually paint. It was kind of liquidy to be paint. Maybe it was stain. They would use that same shit on that shed too. Shed match the fence. And it was a huge backyard. She had a clothesline in one part, like near the shed, like in front of the shed doors. And then off the back door, there was a small wooden deck, you know, big enough to have a few chairs on. And that had a railing that went around the top, same painted red. And the handrails. And there was a stone walkway that went off the deck towards the garage. Both sides of that lined with flowers all the time. In the driveway, I started to say, there was a little stone pathway that cut across the grass from the driveway that went up to where the input was for the oil tank. Like, it was meticulous. Everything had to be in its place. Like, they really took pride in the way the property looked, at least visibly from the street, and you know, to a degree in the backyard. I remember for a while before my grandfather really got sick, the one section of the backyard was just, it was a huge vegetable garden. Like, they had the ground tilled, and they were growing corn and tomatoes and all kinds of shit. And then right next to that, there was a little, probably the same, like the same length of that area. It was a good size. Was a brick outlined, like, growing area as well. I think it started out as just flowers, and then when he got too sick to be out there tilling the ground and working on this like farm-like garden that they had going, they grass seeded it over, or she did, one of them did. And then, oh, we went too far low. Forgot we raised that up. There we go. I was looking at my wrong line there. Sorry, it sounded like Russell came back in. They, started growing some stuff in there, because I remember we tried to grow carrots in there in the little bricked area. Like, half of it was vegetables and the other end was flowers. She loved her flowers. There were flowers everywhere. And for someone that's scared to death of bees and all the buzzy bugs, not exactly a great experience for me, but, you know. I would run barefoot through her grass because it was lush grass. Like, there wasn't any weeds. Hardly. You, like, never saw a dandelion anywhere. And, it was like carpet in most of the spots in the yard. Except for maybe right at the base of the steps going off of the back deck. But it was still, like, thick enough where you had trouble seeing what was in the grass. And then she had an above-ground pool put in that was just a couple of steps from the back porch. And, oh, you couldn't get in the pool until you rinsed off your feet. She had like a basin or like a bucket or something that was several inches deep that had water in it at the base of the ladder to climb up to get into the pool. You had to rinse your feet off before you got in the pool. Because, oh, there was hell to pay if you got grass in the pool. You had to get it out yourself. I remember plenty of time when I was in the pool and was having to help her vacuum. and stuff, but I was curious about what the property looked like now, because they had sold it some years ago. Is this something? It is. Okay. For a second I thought I was just digging at the base felt, but no, that was something that got stuck in the fluff. I ended up looking up pictures of the property most recently, because I was curious, you know, did the people that bought it still have it? What did they do to it? Did they try to sell it again? Oh my god. Let's just say it doesn't look anything like it used to. Holy shit. It was just fucking massacred. I was thinking, oh, you know, maybe people, whoever bought it, might, you know, keep it the same or whatever, or, you know, maintain it. They'll probably change a little bit of it. I think the entire red fence was gone, at least across the front. It looked like they were just parking cars there. I think the grass was just destroyed. It was shocking to see the old photos compared to the new photos, and I was just like, wow. Oh my. I mean, I understand that the neighborhood probably wasn't the best to be outside doing yard work in any longer. It was starting to change a little bit when when she was still alive, when I would be there before they sold it. There was one time we woke up and we heard all kinds of helicopters and shit, and we're like, what's going on? And she always kept the front door, like, locked tight. Like, that place was like Fort Knox trying to get into it. There was deadbolts and chains at the top, and deadbolts at the bottom, and, like, slide bolts, and... Ugh. She had so many locks on the doors. And double locks. So there would be, like... she would lock the garage door, like the automatic door, down, and then, you know, the door to get from the garage into the property, and all of the gates had, like, padlocks on them, and like, to get into through the fencing. And then there were deadbolts and chains and, like, heavy, like, three bolted deadbolts on the back door coming from the back porch into this little, I don't know if it'd be a mud room, I don't know, what might have been an original porch or something that you could split and go down to the basement, or carry forward into the door into the kitchen kind of thing. And then that door had a screen door on it. I don't know why, but there was a screen door on that she had, like, those little, like, hook and eye things on it to hold it closed. And then there was another door that closed that off, which made me think that maybe this was, like, originally a porch, and maybe the cellar and the rest of the house weren't originally connected, but they connected it. I don't know. But then that door had a chain, had another big deadbolt, had a regular lock. I'm like, it was when she wouldn't answer the phone and nobody could get a hold of her when she passed away. They had a hell of a time breaking into the house to try to check on her, because they had some keys, but with the chains and shit on, there wasn't a whole lot that they could do. I can't remember if they had to get the cops to break in or something, I think. Because they could not get in. it was a whole huge thing, but it was quite a shock seeing the state that the property. There I go again, putting it on the wrong line, but I guess that's okay. I mean, that was originally our line down here, so I think that's why I keep trying to go down to that one. It's just like, wow. I mean, it was kind of like, I understand why she had it that locked up, because I mean, they were doing a drug raid on the house across the street one morning at like 6 a.m. We woke up to helicopters hovering and all kinds of cops in the street, and that was kind of an experience. Because, like, the next street over, that apartment complex was a little sketchy after a while. Didn't start out that way, but as time was going on, it started getting sketchy. And I think she was also a little concerned about the halfway house that they had built. Not a halfway house, it was a group home that they had built across the street from her. I forget what was there. Maybe it was just woods. Or maybe it was a house that they tore down. I can't remember what originally was there. Something was there. I just can't for the life of me remember what it was before they put in the group home. And they made her a little nervous because a lot of times, you know, it was people with like different mental illnesses and stuff that could live somewhat unsupervised, but not exactly. Like, there'd always be staff there in case something went wrong, and I think a couple of them were known to be a little bit violent at times because the cops were there a few times and stuff. You would hear them setting off the fire alarm sometimes, I guess, trying to cook. Like, it seemed like they all kind of had their own apartment, so they could be unsupervised to a degree, but they couldn't. Kind of, it was odd. I really don't know all of the details of how things were handled over there, but it was just odd witnessing it from the outside and not really knowing for sure what was happening. But sometimes there would be one or two, usually one particular person that would come outside and just be yelling and carrying on and yelling at somebody that wasn't there, and I think that unnerved her. And then they would settle down and sit down and like be smoking a cigarette on a chair outside, and then it would start all over again, and it seemed to go in a cycle for a time. She knew a couple of the people on the street, kind of. There was one lady, I remember going in her house, and I don't remember why we were in her house. I don't know how friendly they were. They must have been somewhat friends. But I remember she would go over and visit with her every so often. I remember going in this house. I don't remember what it looked like on the inside, but I remember going in it. And I don't remember how long we were there. I don't think it was very long. And then she kind of knew the guy that lived next to her. And it was kind of weird because my grandmother was a very strange person. She'd like side-eye suspiciously look at people and like mutter under her breath. She might have been somewhat closet racist. I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. Just certain things kind of makes you think maybe in select company she was a little bit underneath. But sadly a lot of people were then. But I always found it funny because it seemed like some people she would be like, and but then the guy that lived next to her, actually both guys that ended up living next to her, she ended up getting on like really chatty friendship levels with them, and it surprised me because it seemed like other people of their what's the word I'm looking for? Ethnicity, maybe? Or nationality? One of those. She would be weird about talking about them and be like muttery under her breath in certain company. But she loved the one guy on the one side of her, and she kind of had a somewhat polite civil dealings with the other guy that lived on the other side of her. There was stuff that the one dude on the one side did that she couldn't stand and got mad about, but she was still civil with him, and I think they eventually came to a friendly dealings with each other, I suppose. But the other guy she loved, she never said a bad thing about him. I never even seen him around. I think he might have worked shift work at one of the casinos or something. But every time she talked about this guy, oh yeah, like she always spoke so glowingly of him. It just surprised me that it seemed to be selectively. I think in the end maybe it was just more about things that people did than necessarily where they were from, or maybe the where they were from or their background might have been more tied to maybe in her not caring for it, perhaps tied to more of a product of environment situation or just certain people around her at the time. She did end up kind of chilling out and mellowing down and not being quite that way that I can remember. But I remember when I was little, or she just hit it better because I was getting older and was more aware of conversations happening, which could also have been possible because, you know, adults will say interesting things in front of younger kids thinking that they don't really understand what they're saying, or they don't understand the concepts of what they're talking about and stuff, hoping that what they're saying or thinking what they're saying is just going over younger kids' heads and things. Also could have been possible. But don't really know for certain. But I don't know whatever happened to the one neighbor. I don't know if I ever actually met him. I think I saw him once. Maybe outside in his driveway, she might have yelled over to him. And I think he waved, but that was about it. He also kept his property meticulous. Maybe that was why she loved him. Because he took pride. He also had like a lot of flowering bushes and shrubbery, and there was a couple houses on that street that you could tell that there was... Oh, I was gonna do the... Okay. I'll finish putting this piece in. I forgot I was gonna do the pathway first. Got to talking and forgot what my plan of attack was gonna be here. That's alright. We can still get that put in here. But, there was another old lady, and I say this because my younger mind interpreted her as old, and I think she was old, like, older than my grandmother, and I don't know how these two hooked up. I have no idea. I don't think she was a family member. I think she was just some crazy old lady that somehow my grandmother got hooked up with. I don't know if it was through church. I don't know. This lady was nothing like my grandmother. Or at least nothing like the side of the grandmother of my grandmother that I saw. Most of the time. But, like, my grandmother didn't really drink, or if she did, it wasn't in front of me, and I never really remember any alcohol in the house or seeing her drink. Like, I don't remember. Or maybe they got rid of it when my grandfather got sick. I don't know. She might have been, like, an out-to-dinner, like, cocktail person, but it didn't seem like there was anything in the house. Okay, I forgot I wanted to do this before we got too far. So let me stuff you back in there. Okay. I'm using acrylic yarn, by the way, right now, so just so we're clear, you can use roving, wool, whatever. I'm using acrylic yarn. It didn't come like this. I had to make it look like this, so I do have a prep video on the YouTube channel for how I do it, or potential ways I've seen other people do it. I'd really like to get a set of carding things and just card it, because I think that would be easier on my fingers, but I don't know how much they are. So anyway, this lady was... She was old and had no fucks to give. I remember she lived up the road from like way up the road from where my grandmother lived, like 2, 3 towns away. Like maybe a 15-20 minute drive. Maybe closer to a half an hour. And I don't know why. Maybe my grandmother was stuck watching me those particular days, but I remember times where I went with her when she went to visit this lady. And I don't remember much about this woman except for the fact that I thought she was crazy. I think it was just in the way that she spoke. I mean, for some reason, and I don't remember why this sticks out to my brain, but I remember, like, she'd be sitting there drinking highballs when my grandmother went up to see her, and I'm just like, okay. I don't know why my young brain remembers this particular detail, but it does. What the hell was her name? Her name was Gladys. She was crazy. I still don't quite remember how those two hooked up. I remember being in her house. Not much of the house, but I remember being at her place for maybe a half an hour or so. When my grandmother stopped by. So see. This needs to be kind of filled in here without creating too much of a divot. And I don't know how much of this pathway is going to shine through our bridge opening, so I want to make sure that we're looking pretty good here. I can't remember if my grandmother ever had any of the highballs while they were there. Maybe like politely sipped on one? Maybe? Can't remember. But I don't really remember her drinking at her house. She could have. Just don't remember it. Like, I do remember that they had this old weird dining room table. And it was this, like, weird whitewashed over, like, a greenish color type of shade. And I remember having to help, or getting roped in to help, my grandfather refinish this. Because I remember helping him stain the table and the chairs. And then putting oh so many layers of polyurethane over top of it. And how, don't touch, it's wet, can't touch it. And then after all of that, I was never allowed to do anything on the surface of the table. Like, you could see the surface of the table, and she had this weird swan thing, no D. It was like this piece of mirrored glass, or just a mirror, I guess, that was, I don't know, 9 by 9 or something. It was a full-on square. And then she had these glass swans that sat in a circle. I mean, you could position them wherever you wanted. They weren't attached to the mirror. But that wasn't the bizarre part. The bizarre part was that they were empty. They were clear glass, and they had holes in them, right? And every so often I would remember her taking these swans into the kitchen, dumping out the liquid that was in them, and refilling it with different liquid, and putting food coloring in the water, and then changing the color of the swans. And I was like, okay. And then there was this weird thing that sat in the middle of them all. Like, they'd be like different neck positions and stuff. And then there was this like weird glass thing in the middle. And it kind of reminded me of like an umbrella or like a willow tree kind of thing. And this thing in the middle had the same ability to put water or colored water in it. And she would make it the same color as the swans. And then there was these weird like plastic strings. Kind of, what's the best thing I can kind of compare it to? I guess I would compare it to like fiber optic strings. They didn't light up, but they would sit in the middle of this stand that the color water that you could put in it, and it would come out, and almost like a palm tree or a willow tree, and it would come out and it would fall down the sides, and it'd create like a curtain around the swans. I guess it was supposed to like simulate like water, like a water fountain, but it was these weird plastic string things. And you know, you would stick the swans in between the curtain and you could see through it, but I've never seen anything else like that since. the weird knickknacks that our grandparents had around the house. It was so bizarre. And that could sit on the table surface. But I don't know if it was because I was a kid or if she automatically assumed I was going to fuck up the table surface after it got refinished. Anything I did, whether it was messy or not messy, like I could understand putting it down, you know, when I was messing around with like paint. But I had a light bright. The old school light bright. Big ass like 8x10 peg screen, had the foam underneath that helped hold the pegs in, and the paper patterns that you would slip into the little holders on the side, and then you could, you know, put the colored pegs in to make the pattern. That couldn't touch the table surface, even though it had no mess with it whatsoever. My train, when I set it up on the dining room table, she had these big ass quilted, thick quilted, I don't know if they were furniture covers, furniture padding or something. She had to have them like 2 or 3, maybe 2 inches thick on this table. Had it folded over on itself. I also had to do puzzles like that. Oh boy, that was... I kept trying to tell her, I'm like, I can't really do the puzzles on this table like this. The pieces aren't staying together. She's like, it's fine. You've got it almost together. And I'm like, but they're not staying together. They keep popping out because the surface underneath of it isn't flat. She goes, it's fine. I could not do anything. Like, even when the rare occasion that we ate at this dining room table, this furniture pad would be out. Or she would have some kind of tablecloths over top of it. And I was like, but I'm like, I can't do the thing like this. The table's too lumpy. Oh no, there was no making that table pad go away. And in my brain, I'm like, well, I get it for like the messy stuff, like the Play-Doh or the watercolors. It wasn't even like acrylic paint, it was washable watercolors. I could almost see that. But in my brain, I was like, well, I helped refinish this once already. If it gets that messed up, we can just do it again. Oh no. Just like, okay. Because she also had a matching storage cabinet that went with this dining room table. And she had a buffet table. I think that's what you call them. It was like a long table that I guess, you know, you could set trays of food up on. She always had like knickknacks and picture frames on it and stuff. And if we were eating at the dining room table for anything, the swans ended up over there. I do remember that. But, she was very meticulous in the way things were done. I didn't even... Like, I forgot she had fur coats at one point. She, like, hardly ever wore them. I think I remembered her wearing them maybe 2 or 3 times. Maybe. They were always in the closet with, like, plastic bags over them and stuff. Like, hardly ever saw them. And I don't think they were faux either, based on when she would have gotten them. They could have been. I'm pretty sure they were gifts from my grandfather, but I don't think they really did faux fur at that time. So I'm pretty sure it was real fur. I think my parents, one of them was born in 43 and the other one was born in 47. And I'm pretty sure those things might have existed before then. Like in their possession, in my grandmother's possession. So I don't know if she just felt weird about wearing them or only saved them for special occasions. I think I only remember seeing her wearing it very few handful of times. And I always also found it very odd. And obviously it wasn't that way all of the time, because that was the house, I'm pretty sure that was the house my dad grew up in. Based on photos I've seen. But pretty sure that at one point, you know, my grandparents were sharing a bedroom. But I guess, I don't know if it started when he started getting sick and had to get up to go to the bathroom so much, or what. I never really understood the why. He was a bigger guy. Maybe it was just because the main bedroom's bed wasn't quite big enough for the both of them anymore. I don't know. He seemed to gain more weight the sicker that he got. He had a pacemaker in. I think he had lung cancer. I remember him having to get radiation, and they had like dots tattooed on him in certain places where they would like line up like the radiation machines and stuff. And then, you know, just a litany of other things after that. But for some reason, I never remember them sharing the same bedroom. When I was younger and I would stay over, I'd always be in her bed or on like an inflatable mattress in the one sitting room or in her room, or if it was really particularly hot because she didn't have whole house AC, we would sleep in the sitting room where the big AC unit was. But I never, ever, ever, ever remember them sharing a room. I never knew why that was. I always found it odd, though. I'm sure there was some logical reason for it. I just never knew what it was. I do remember growing up that I had a playroom in the basement. Their basement was kind of... It was half-assly finished. Where, like, there was a section towards the far end of the basement where I think it still had a concrete floor. Or maybe it transitioned to dirt in one spot. But, it was like the cinder block walls on the sides that were painted. And she had her washer and dryer down there. And I remember having to go down this spiral, like cinder block stairs, or concrete stairs. Which always scared the shit out of me because I was afraid I was going to fall down them. Because there would be like little tiny holes in the cinder block and stuff. like not very big, but you know, just like little cracks and stuff along the outer wall where the step was wider. But there was also crickets everywhere. I was so traumatized by bugs when I was little. That they would just be like sitting on the ledge that you had to walk by, and like your face would be going by them, and I was always scared to death that the crickets were gonna jump at my face as I was going past them. And Russell makes fun of me for being terrified of crickets. But like I knew I couldn't, like I was trapped on these spiral stairs because I couldn't run that fast down them because, you know, they were old and stone or concrete or something, and the edges of them could, you know, not be entirely as sturdy as you felt they were, and they were not that wide, so you had to be really careful going down them. But she had like one room that had drywall up in it that was kind of finished, that she had her old Singer sewing machine in and an ironing board in. And she would make some clothes from time to time, some skirts, and mostly skirts. I don't ever remember her making tops. I remember her making like skirts here and there, if she found a fabric pattern that she liked. Sorry, I'm starting to indent a little bit in there. I mean, we're probably going to have that indent, just the way it's probably going to be, but... And I can clean up the edges here once we start getting in here with the yellow, so... Right now I'm just trying to make sure that we're filled in pretty good here. But she had this old Singer sewing machine that like was built into a table. Really big. That still had like the wrought iron, I don't know if it was really wrought iron, but that's what it reminded me of, foot pedal. Like the big one that went like the width of the sewing machine at the bottom. And she ended up having it converted into an electric one at some point. So I don't know if something had broken with the foot pedal, or if she just decided that she was getting too old for this shit and just wanted the ease of dealing with an electric version. But I remember her trying to teach me how to sew. Didn't go that well with the sewing machine. I was kind of scared of the sewing machine. I was afraid I was gonna break it. 'Cause like I could just tell it was old. I don't think it was necessarily antique. I mean, I'm sure nowadays it might have been considered antique. But I was just so afraid to touch it. I was like, I'm gonna break it. But she had that in her room that was kind of finished. There wasn't heat down there, though. So, summer it was fine. But I remember in the winter, and oh, you'd never really get away with doing that nowadays. I mean, some people might. But, like, so risky nowadays that I don't think it would be done. But she had this old kerosene heater that I remember that she would fill with the kerosene and then like turn it on. I don't know if she lit something in there or what, but I was always told, do not go near that. It is very hot. You will get burned. Like, I was like scared shitless to go near this thing. And I think I vaguely remember at times her putting a pot of water on the top of it. So I don't know if she was like using the steam to heat the room, or if she was just using that to keep the air moist so it didn't get too dried out in there. But I remember for the floor, It was like the same like concrete slab, I guess, but like the same painted concrete. The entirety of the interior of the bedroom was like this, or basement was, I guess I'd call it like this grayish blue, like maybe Payne's gray color, more on the bluish side. Definitely a blue-gray shade of some description. That was just slathered on the cinder blocks. I'm surprised it wasn't bubbling. It looked like there was so many layers of paint on there. And she would tack up this blanket. Actually, it might have been another furniture pad. She had these things everywhere. I don't know where she got them from. But she would like tack that up over the door to keep the heat into that playroom area, and the flooring on top of this concrete, whatever it was, there was the fake indoor-outdoor grass. I don't know why, but it was there. Maybe because I wouldn't mess it up, or if I got something on it, they could like roll it up and take it outside and hose it off. I don't know. I don't even know where it came from. I just remember that it was there. Maybe it was there previously. I don't know. I don't know why it ended up there. It was just there. And the one wall in there that kind of divided it off from the rest of the basement, that was drywall. I remember that much, at least on the playroom side. The other side, I think, was cinder block, where like she might have been storing stuff. She actually didn't have that much stored in the basement, I don't think. I don't remember there being a lot of stuff stored in there. There might have been a couple of things here and there. I don't really remember all that many boxes of stuff. Although that end of the basement was really dark and I was really scared to go exploring back there, and I think I might have gotten told not to go back there. So, I don't think I ever did. I know being down there always made me nervous because the ceilings were low and it was all like the exposed pipe and stuff. And the furnace was like was it the furnace and the hot water heater? Or was it just the furnace? Maybe the hot water heater was on the other side? That might have been the well pump, because she had well water and city water. And I think she watered the grass with the well water, so she didn't have to pay more in water fees for the city. But I think everything else she did was city water. Yeah, it was the hot water heater and the furnace. They kind of sat next to each other in the basement. And I was always, at least I think they did. There was something, the furnace was here and there was something else sitting here, and I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was the oil tank. The oil tank was in the ground because I remember my uncle and my dad having to get the ground tested because they had just changed the rules in New Jersey about selling houses that had in the ground oil tanks, and they were really super nervous about it, the soil around it coming back clean, because it would have been astronomical to have the tank ripped up and the contamination pulled out and then a new tank above ground put in. Like, I think they were talking it could be close to 20,000, if not more. So they were really on pins and needles waiting for that test to come back, and it came back clean, so I think they just left it in the ground. Kind of let it be the next person's problem, I guess. Which is why I think in New Jersey you're seeing so many tanks now above ground. But for some reason that furnace scared me to death. I don't know why. It just upset me. Like, I didn't like being down there when the furnace came on, or being near it when the furnace came on. And then it never really seemed to change when we had the house in New Jersey. What is this smelling? I'm smelling something. It kind of smells like something on fire. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if the husband's doing something. Give me 1 second. Because he kind of disappeared for a minute. I don't know if he's going to answer me or not. We'll see. Alright, so we're going to start to widen this out just a little bit. Like, I don't want it like super wide, but we are gonna start to need to. Oh, okay. He lit an incense. Alright. We have two different incense incense smells in this house. We have the dragon's blood scent from Wildberry that I have in our room, and then in his mom's room he has our pine tree scent from, I think, Thomas Paine. And it's an okay smell. It can be pretty strong though. And I wasn't placing it as an incense smell. I was just like, why do I smell like a wood burning smell? Like, what is happening? And I got a little concerned. As to where it was coming from. Okay. Ooh, my doggy pajamas. Doggy pajamas. Mornings are rough. I know it's upside down, but that's what I'm wearing. If anybody's like, what the fuck? It was a lazy day. It just felt like a stay in your PJs kind of day. This would fall under house clothes. I don't really have that many PJs. I can't. This is like the only pair of pants that I can kind of sleep in. Well, it's got matching pants. Usually I get upset when I sleep in pants because they get tangled up around my legs and I'm like, what is happening? And then I just get mad. And I also get really hot because I usually have a dog under the blankets with me. being a little bit of a mini furnace. Alright, so I'm at least trying to get this as solid as I can. We still have to eventually highlight this guy after we get him in here. I do need to attempt to widen him out just a little bit, though. So I might start at the line here. I feel like he's just not wide enough to pull this off yet. So all of like the grayish silvery strands you see kind of mixed in here, that's going to be from our felt base. It doesn't look like it was really attached over in here. Maybe I did it at an angle and it went in a different spot. Okay. So, you know, we're being a little bit slow with this, and it's better to go slow and be happy with how it's going than suddenly be like, oh, I fucked up. You know, it's easier to build it up than it is to fix it. And that can be said for a lot of different mediums, really. When you get down to it. Like, watercolor is real tough to fix a mistake on. You might be able to come back in with maybe some gouache or something and fix it, depending on what the mistake was. Acrylic paint's not that bad to fix. You can just paint over it. Oil paint, probably just scrape it off and fix it that way. Trying to fix this, I don't know. Some people say that you can use a seam ripper to get it out. I'd be worried about damaging our felt underneath, though, and it might just be less of an aggravation to just redo what the base color was in that area and just try to do it again. And work over it. Easier to do this. Probably safer to do this without holding that. Alright, so I'm going to try to keep our path a little bit wider in through here. And then we'll start to shrink him down a bit. Since we're coming closer, I want to start with our wider section up here. And then that way, when we come back in with our yellow grassy things, we'll have a better idea of where we need to add a little bit more along the edge of the path to help set it down in there and make it feel a little bit more put together. And sometimes I just need to work at the larger part and work back to the smaller one. Sometimes working small to big, I mess up more. And at this stage, you know, it's okay to work the bigger to the smaller, because it's not going to matter so much which way we started. I mean, maybe put this an idea of how wide you want the smallest section to be, and kind of work your way back up into it. Oh man, that bass is uncomfortably vibrating. I hope that they are going to be on their way soon, and that they're not just sitting somewhere chilling, because that's painful. Just all the way around. Like, I guess you could also take a thin section of this and kind of outline your width too, if that makes it a little bit better. Oh my god, where is this person's car? I hope they're not setting up shop at the car wash. It's a little much. Like, your car stereo should not be vibrating my ass in my chair in my house when you're, I mean, it shouldn't do that ever, especially, you know, I mean, you're not in my driveway, you're on the road or a couple doors down. That's a little much, I gotta say. I might kind of leave it around that width in there for now. I mean, I don't want it too wide, because we still have a little bit further to go, so we can widen it out a little bit more as we come forward here. I think it stopped. It either stopped or they turned it down. Sorry, loud vibrating noises I do not like. Oh, let's get you out from underneath of my arm, so you're not making that obnoxious tapping noise. So we've made actually a pretty good dent in this today. We finished up this side, because we weren't quite done this side. We did a little bit more on this side, and then we filled in this side. I did leave a few more gaps over here than I did on this side, but like I said, we're gonna have this other color coming back in over top of it. I'll just make sure we're a little bit thicker in those spots there. So tomorrow's goals are gonna be, didn't have a hard stop time today, but I am getting hungry, so we might be stopping around normal time. Got used to eating around this time, man, or at least starting dinner. Actually, I have to figure out what my dinner is tonight. I didn't have to make dinner for my mom tonight. Russell made corn chowder, so that's what she wanted, and I don't really like that. So I'm kind of on my own. I might go scrounging through the freezer Let's see what I got. I might have some chicken strips left that need to get eaten. I saw a bag of french fries in there floating around. So maybe we'll try to do something with that. We'll see. So tomorrow I think we're going to work on highlighting our path here. And then when that's done, we'll get back to work on putting in our yellows. Don't know if we'll actually finish the yellow stuff tomorrow. We should definitely have time to get it started. I don't believe we're going anywhere tomorrow. So, I think stream should still be happening. I don't know about Thursday's stream though. I will have to let you know. Thursday's stream might get pushed back to later in the day, or it might just get straight up canceled altogether. It depends on if we're doing the zoo one day this week. Let me see. What's our dates here? So tomorrow's the 1st. I don't think she gets paid till the 3rd. I don't know if it's happening this week or not. I gotta look at the weather. Because there were a couple of days where they were calling for thunderstorms in Tulsa in the afternoon, and I'd rather not have to deal with that while we were there or try to drive home in that, because I don't know what those roads are going to be like in downpours, and I'd just rather not have to worry about it. To be perfectly honest. And like, we know how the drivers are in our bubble area, if you will, when the weather starts to take a turn. We don't know how they are in that neck of the woods. And you know, I don't want to have to drive 2 hours and have our trip cut shorter than we had planned on because of the weather taking a tumble. Alrighty. So we'll get this all filled in here. And looking pretty good. I mean, I want it pretty solid. We are gonna highlight it, but it's a highlight. We're not gonna be looking to fill in every nook and cranny with the highlight color, so I kind of want to fuss this a little bit to be sure it's what I'm looking for kind of situation. So tonight I'm probably going to be doing more video editing. Maybe if I get this last, or the current live stream I'm editing down for that speed video, Might work on a Planet Zoo recording. Just wish I was faster at editing the video, because anything I record that's not streamed, then I have to edit it down and throw it in the software to put it up on YouTube. And granted, you know, the Planet Zoo speed builds aren't quite as bad editing wise, because I usually remember to hit pause on those when I need to get up and walk away, because I can do that on the recorded version. I'm always terrified I'm gonna forget to unpause it though. That is a risk. It definitely is. Have I done that? I think once or twice. And I think it was on an art piece where I couldn't just be like, oh, sorry, lost the footage. And then I was like, well, fuck it, I guess we're not putting this video up now. Grr? You okay, Momo? I thought he was sitting at my feet. The grr sounded pretty loud. I don't know if he's got itchy nose, which he might. Possible. Alright, this section just doesn't wanna... What's the matter, Momo? You have itchy nose? You gotta come here if you want mommy to scratch it. I can hear him rubbing his face in his bed. He's making like the grunty noises of, God, this itches. He just doesn't want to get up off of his butt. I have no idea what I'm going to give them for dinner. Oh, that's right. I was thinking of making that mac and cheese. To make the mac and cheese, or to do the French fries? I want the French fries today, though. If I'm gonna be honest. Alright, that's pretty put together. I'm not so worried about that little spot, because that'll get filled in later when the ground is continued onward. I do have a few more bits in here though that are just, there's too much gray poking through there on the camera. So let's see if we can fill that in. I'm not so worried about the very edge, but it's definitely the middle of this that's something I want to fill in here. So like I was saying earlier, we can fix the edges, and you know, we want them to be a little bit scraggly, especially if it's like a footpath or a bike path or something. Now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't look anywhere near wide enough for a vehicle to be using this. It's probably more of just a walking path covered bridge type situation. Alright, So that's pretty good in there. I think this is our last problem child here for the moment. I know we've got a lot of gaps over here, but I decided to stop being quite so fussy because we do have another color coming in. And I do want to get a little bit more brown up into here. Though it kind of is supposed to like go around the curve and oh, where did it go? So we might have to put some like taller things up along the sides of this, or at least one side of it, to kind of give the illusion that this is disappearing off into who knows where. Alright, that's pretty good. Pretty good. It can be a little better though. A little better. So like pretty sure our bridge is gonna start in here, and then we'll start to widen this out a little bit more as we come off of it, or you know, maybe try to take it this way. I gotta see if he ends up curving it back this way or if he brings it straight. That I don't fully remember. So I tried to get some coverage on this when we were fussing with it earlier, but I think I need to bring this up into our shrubbery line a little bit further. I mean, that's not too bad. I mean, yeah, that's not bad. I can put some yellow stuff in here. Yeah, I think we'll be okay with that for today. I know it's a little bit hard to see because, you know, all the dark colors in it and the way the camera's picking up the lighting coming back at it. It's not quite as dark in person as it looks on the camera. I mean, it's still pretty dark, but we've got this fiesta happening back in here. I don't know, man. I don't know. He had an odd color scheme going on back there. I'm just come back here. I'm just trying to do my best to work within what he's got happening here. Right? So sorry, mustard yellow or yellow mustard. I really need to go look at my yellow mustard color because it might be a little bit deeper than this, and if that's the case, I think I want to grab it. But yeah, so that's where we're at for today. Let me take a quick peeky poo at who might be doing stuff. I know I don't really raid that many people, but when I see friends I know, I try to go check them out. So let's go and we'll go see Taco. She's rated us quite a lot. I haven't had the chance to return the favor very often. But we'll go see Taco. She might be doing 7 days today. I might be wrong though. So thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll pick this back up tomorrow afternoon. You guys have a great night.